Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. I'm here with Daniel P. Reily. How you doing?
Doing very well. Keeping cool.
So freaking hot. Yeah, we're
Mhm.
both over here in the eastern section of the United States, just roasted. But it's a dry heat, which does make a difference.
That's
God,
true.
yeah, I lived in Albuquerque for 7 years, and as hot as it got, it was still dry, so it wasn't that bad. Ah,
Yeah.
you can
I lived
see.
in Texas for a year. It was gorgeous.
Oh, Texas?
hmm
What part of Texas?
Just outside of Austin.
Okay. I've never been to Austin. I've been to Dallas and I've been to Houston, and they were both like being in a swamp. I remember it was just so hot and humid. I imagine Austin's got to be, but I did. Oh, and I was in Eastern Texas. I like that because it was dry. I like the dry heat. So anyway, what are we talking about Texas for? How are you doing?
Doing very well. Keeping busy. How are
Yeah,
you?
good. So let's address these comments over here. We got Eric Grant. Hello, how you doing, Eric? I'll be late, but I want you to know the P in the P stands for penis. Okay, there you go.
Of course, Eric Grant's going to mess with me.
Okay, somebody that you know. So sometimes,
Yeah.
because I have a policy where I don't insult my guests. I know it's crazy, and some people get mad. So I didn't know if that was like somebody that hated you, was busting your chops or whatever. But okay, good. And this is your campaign. We'll get back to that. And
Yes.
hello, JVP Music. How you doing?
JVP.
I see these are your people. So
Yeah.
what are you doing over here on John's Long Box? What's going on?
Well, I'm glad I finally was able to get on with you. We had talked when I did the campaign for the special edition of issue number 1. Now I'm here because issue number 2's in campaign.
Oh, I didn't have you on.
No, I think you were on your break at that point. It was around the beginning of the year.
Oh, I don't remember. I apologize. I
Okay.
was just super booked. At one point, I was, when I first started, I didn't realize, how hungry everybody was going to be to get some promotion, and I felt bad. I wasn't saying no. I was booking, so I at one point I was booked up 4 months in advance. So I
Yeah.
probably gave you a date that was like no good for you.
Yep.
I
Campaign
apologize.
ended end of February, so
Yeah,
yeah.
probably not. I not to be mean to anybody, but I've been doing less and less just because this is the busy time in my job. I'm a construction worker right now. Is the best weather, so we get a lot of work done overtime. So I haven't been booking a lot of talks, and I haven't been doing my regular videos. But that's the way the cookie crumbles. So we
Yeah,
got
so
DCC. Hi,
watching
John.
your and so I was like, this would be an awesome dude to talk about this comic
Oh,
book with.
thanks. We got
Hey,
Pops over here. How you doing, Pops?
yeah.
Anybody turns on a camera anywhere, Pops shows up. Pray God, what's up? So
Pop.
tell us about your project over here. I'll put your link in the.
So yeah, G Sedai is it's a white guy making a manga basically. So it's in a Western format, but it uses a manga art style, and it's based on a novel series I've been working on for a couple of years now. I've got 2 of 3 books out, and I'm working on finalizing the 3rd book. Going to be out probably the end of this year, and I thought, what better way than to put the story out there in a totally different medium and share it with comic book fans and manga fans.
Okay, I'm bringing up your campaign right here.
Yep.
Is it okay? I see you got a trailer. Is it okay if I play the trailer?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'm gonna make this big, and I will hit this. What I mean is okay. No cursing, no nudity, or anything like that.
Nope, it's just music and images.
Okay, cool. Oh, cool, cool. So,
Yeah,
uh,
a lot of fun to create. I had Mr. Good Stuff work on the video
oh,
presentation stuff for me. Great dude.
he's a good guy. His wife, Phantasmagora gal, she made a trailer for me. I didn't even ask her to. She just made it and showed me one day. I was like, wow,
Yeah,
great
she's
couple
great.
those two.
Yeah, all fantastic people. I love to network with folks. And a buddy of mine who goes by Everly Music did the music itself for that trailer. He's been
Oh,
making music for my trailers for.
oh, cool. So it's original music. It's not just
Yep.
some downloaded. Oh, cool.
Nope, original music. My ultimate goal for this whole thing is to try and drum up slowly but surely a little bit of extra money in the war chest to create at least a minute and a half pitch video for getting investors involved in maybe doing an animated series or animated film of it.
Oh,
Trying to
okay.
attack this thing from all different medias.
So, what I know I'm going to mispronounce sushi. I'm going to mispronounce that. I'm doing what terrible. How do you say that?
Suzakushin.
I'm sorry.
Suzakushin.
Okay, I assume that's a real Japanese word.
Yes, it's based on one of the divinities in, I believe it's Chinese mythology, actually.
Oh,
It's a
cool.
phoenix, basically.
Oh, okay.
The mega corporations of this world, some of them took on names of gods in order to become bigger brands that way. And the company that these killers work for is called Suzakushin Corporation.
Cool. And this, how do you pronounce that? I'm just being very careful because people start to tease me how I mispronounce everything.
Oh, it's okay. I'm totally used to it. I've used a lot of obscure words for the story. It's Suzakushin.
Oh no, this just said the name
Sedai.
J Sedai. Okay.
It means second generation or next generation colloquially.
Okay. Okay. And so what do you are you the writer, artist, you everything, or?
I'm the writer. I have no artistic talent unless you want stick figures.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I've tried and failed. And
yes.
so I looked around. I got involved with a artist by the name of Kevin Jacob, who does all of the sketch and line. My daughter is the one who does what we call color pop, which is accenting certain things in the panels with a splash of vibrant color. And that was my idea to do these campaigns on, because I don't like crowdfunding. It's just personal. I'm not against other people who do it, but I would much rather have a product to sell than try to sell people on an idea. So I create these comics myself, funded and everything. And then we do the Color Pop special edition campaigns on Fund My Comic to make a little extra revenue. And those are just for the campaigns. When it's over, you can't get them. The comics in black and white on Global Comics and anywhere else.
Okay. I recognize this as Jose Garcia. I love his artwork. Yeah.
Fantastic dude. Yeah. Had Jose Garcia, Sean Stevens, who goes by Art Attacks on X. He did the sniper one there. And the last one is Luke Stone, the owner of the comic. Yep.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, Luke really knocked this one out of the park. That's great.
He's phenomenal. I'm going to be working with him on a couple of other projects I got coming.
He's a good guy. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, Luke Stone is the guy behind Fund My Comic. And he asked me to make a video why I chose it, and I want to do it. I'm sorry, Luke, if you're watching this. Just the spirit is willing, the flesh is weak. My friend just designed a website for me, and he's been messaging me for 3 days. You gonna look at it yet? You gonna look at it yet? That's how busy I've been the past 2 weeks. So this to me looks like old school manga. Now, take anything I say with a grain of salt, because I don't really know manga that well. I remember in the 80s, Eclipse Comics and I think First Comics made a wave of manga that came to America. That was the first time I ever got experience to it. And I remember it was black and white with a couple of images in color. What you called it, color pop?
Yep.
Yeah. So this looks very not familiar to me, but I recognize this from old school manga, like stuff like Barefoot Gen and Go Go 13 are the ones that I remember off
Yes.
my head.
Yep.
Yeah. So I take it. I mean, are you?
Yeah.
What's
I'm
the
Gen
main word? I'm sorry.
I'm Gen X, so that's the world I came from,
Me
inspired
too.
by the great classics that trickled their way across the ocean. So
So I got to ask you the obvious question. No, me not to be insulting, but are you a weeb?
I don't consider myself a weeb, but I can stand among them and not get picked out as a traitor.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, a weeb is like I don't know if it's an insult or if it's a just goofy or if it's one of those we own those words, but it's Americans who are fascinated with Japanese stuff, cartoons, robots, food, the women. Now I'm not a weeb, but I would love to go to Japan. It's such a different culture that and I it's safe, it's clean, it's interesting, and I would just love to go. I got friends in Japan too who keep telling me to come visit, but that has nothing to do with this conversation. So
I like to learn stuff, and when I was writing the book series, I did a ton of research on the history in order to create. Oh, thanks, Pops.
yeah, that's a good recommendation because Pops is 600 years old and he's been reading comics since cuneiform days in Babylon. So if he says it's good, that's a good recommendation.
Yeah, he's been a great supporter.
Yeah, Pops a good guy.
Yeah, so I did a lot of research on on the history of Japan because that's physically the location, but I also did a lot of research. Oh, very cool, Marcus. A lot of research on China and Korea and because this is set in the future. It's kind of a little bit cyberpunk, a little bit dystopian, sort of taking the idea of the old manga and anime trope of mega cities where Tokyo walled itself off and just sort of grew inside of its own perimeter. And in order to do that, I wanted to learn as much as I possibly could about the intricacies of it, right down to the smallest details, like the weird slight differences in their traffic light system. And the more I researched about it, and also a lot of their old weapon cultures around martial combat, the more intrigued I was. So maybe I am turning into a weeb. Who knows? That I did like a couple hundred hours of research into sword fighting competitions and exhibitions in order to really understand how futuristic characters that were using special versions of old model weapons could use them in a highly competitive and very active combat situation.
Cool. I was looking at all your rewards here. So you this I can't even speak. This campaign is just for the second issue 2. Well, I see you can also get issue 1, but these color pop editions. So you're selling the black and white ones elsewhere?
Yeah, I sell the black and white ones after these campaigns end on Global Comics locally. I also sell them in some comic book stores across the US.
Oh, cool. Okay. And what did you say? Global comics?
It's Global Comics with an X instead of a CS.com. It's a digital comic book website.
Oh, okay. I got
you. Available for purchase up there. First, I think 15 pages of the 32-page book are free to preview. And then, I sell physical editions through a storefront on Fund My Comic that I deliver myself and also ship them out to comic book stores all over.
How does it sell on Global Comics? Again, I use these conversations as a resource. I'm learning every day.
The digital doesn't seem to be taken off like I thought it would. A lot of folks talk about how digital is kind of the way to reach the broader world, especially now with shipping costs. But I'm not seeing a lot of movement on global comics anyways. If anybody's got some suggestions on alternatives for digital platforms, let me know.
Yeah, I'm interested too. I was dragged kicking and screaming into it, into selling my comic digitally also, but you know, I, me personally, I'm a pick up a comic book, read it guy. Like Stan Lee said, comic books are like boobs. It's better to touch them than, and I like, I want to play physical games. I don't want to play video games. I want to read physical but I understand I'm in a growing demographic, or an aging demographic rather. So I put a digital tier, and by far the physical comics are selling more than the digital. So people told me to do it. I did it, but it's not like it's costing me money. It's not like I have to print stuff that is just going to sit in my basement for. So I'm doing it because I know one or two guys, one guy in England and one guy in Ireland, like, John, I love you and I want to buy your comic, but $40 for a comic. And I totally understand that, can't do anything about the shipping. So as much as people say they want digital, me personally, my lived experience, as everybody says, I don't see it.
Right.
Eric Grant's got a good comp. Prefer physical comics too, but shipping to Australia, geez, shipping to Australia is like shipping to the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah, so far away.
It's pretty.
I forget who was talking about it, but there was one guy who said that he was thinking about being the distribution center in Europe. Like, you send him the files and he'll work with the local printers, print, and then ship. And then somebody's like, I don't know if it was Michael Bancroft or what was saying the same thing about Australia. They'll print it in Australia, but that would be awesome for us all to network. But anyway, this has nothing to do with your comic. I just included a digital copy with every physical. Yeah, but some people just want a digital. They don't want me to ship them something. They don't want to spend $30 or $50. Eric Grant, I'm just curious, how much would it cost for me to send you a comic to you in Australia from me in New York? That's got to be a fortune, I've noticed two problems with digital in regards to indie comics so far. One is too high of a price. The other is terrible quality resolution. That said, though, print is my first choice. Well, thank you for saying that, because I haven't started shipping digital yet. So that's something I will look out for. And
that is an issue, and I had to do some back end work to make sure that the resolution on the pages in the digital version were not grainy and messed up. It wasn't, I don't consider it perfect, but I thought it was really better quality than some of the other stuff I've seen. And my price point is $5 for digital version.
Yeah, mine is $6. Yeah. I didn't know that was a problem. I too am learning, and I'm in the middle of my first campaign, so that's something I will be on the lookout for. Thank you for bringing it up. I really do not want anybody being upset about like something stupid like I sent out a blurry PDF. Oh man, just talk about shooting yourself in the foot. We got Kirby over here. How you doing, Kirby? I just like saying Kirby. Praetor 7. Yes, please make sure. Yes, thank you for bringing it up. $5 and $6 is great. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's I'm only charging $10 for my comic because, so $6. To be honest, I thought $6 was like too much, but people tell me, believe it or not, people will yell at. Let me modify that phrase. A few people were telling me that they were getting mad that I was only selling my comic for $10. I said, what does that have to do with you? What is that? Hey, John, doing good. Oh, good. Kirby's doing good. And like my wife always says, I'm hogging the conversation, so I'm sorry. So I will hand you the invisible microphone. There you go.
The only reason I do the special edition campaign for physical for 20 and 25 because of the variant covers. That's the only reason that we did that. There was extra cost put into the production, so wanted to make that back a little bit. And because it's the special editions, not available after the campaigns end, my physicals I sell for 10, $5 for digital, 10 for physical, the black and white. And I put out about maybe 15 to 20 every month going out to various stores, which is really nice. I got a small street team working for me.
Oh, cool.
They've been an absolute support system that I couldn't do without.
So this is your original concept, your original story. You're writing this, and so tell me more about it. We kind of touched on it, and then me being a jerk, I started overstepping into it and distracted you. So it's set in the future, big mega cities, and
Yeah.
then I
So
got distracted like a little kid.
it's all good. So the story itself centers around the 8th member of a elite squad of killers called the Holy Eight. They are contracted by Suzakushin Corporation as like a clandestine, espionage unit. They kill rival company corporate executives. They steal information. They do whatever the company wants them to do in order for the company to get ahead. What makes them slightly better is that Suzakushin Corporation focuses on research and development of cybernetic technology, which is where the sci-fi aspect of things kind of kicks in. So they're enhanced, giving them a slight edge over the competition, literally. And the final one, which is the main character of the story, he's called Gabriel. Each one of them is named after an archangel, which is why they're called the Holy Eight. And Gabriel is the bearer of the first functioning version of nanotechnology that Suzakushin Corporation has been able to make. So he's sort of their guinea pig test subject.
Okay.
And that puts him a slight step above even his own team. And for that reason, he's kept in isolation for much of his life. He is given missions, and then he's expected to return back to his apartment and just wait for the next mission. So he has no social life, no real social interactions. He's barely.
He's like, hey, you just go to work, come home.
Yeah, go to work, come home. But his work is killing people. So
my work is killing me. So
yeah. So he during one of his missions, fate, of course, intervenes, as these stories often go, and a young girl fleeing sex traffickers crosses his path. And for reasons he doesn't fully understand, he is human, but he's just sort of used to being isolated and antisocial. But for reasons that he doesn't fully understand, he decides to protect her from those sex traffickers.
Yeah, some sort of humanity awakens within him.
Little glimmer of humanity inside of his sort of robotic
Did you
life.
see that movie with Christian Bale, Equilibrium?
Oh yes.
He stops taking the drugs, and he looks at the dog, and he's just holding the dog, and he doesn't kill it. That's what I'm picturing. This guy, he doesn't know why, but he has feelings.
Yep, not at first. It takes some time, and what ends up happening is he takes her home for the night, feeds her, gives her a place to stay, and then his intent is just to send her on her way so that the company doesn't catch wind that he's essentially off script. But they do. So the company, being who they are, decide that they're going to eliminate her in order to prevent any further issues with him, so that they can keep him under control. And he chooses not to let that happen either. So
he can't have any weaknesses or something to distract him from the job.
Yep. So, but he rebels against that, and they end up having to. The whole point of the story is that he fights to protect this girl and learns how to be a real person through protecting her against Suzakushin Corporation and the rest of the Holy Eight.
And now is this guy cybernetically enhanced? Does he have missing limbs?
Gabriel has a nanotechnology colony inside of him. So I'm slow rolling this explanation in the comic book.
Oh, don't give any spoilers then.
No, I don't mind. I'm not afraid to spoil.
I'm terrible like that. Somebody asked me, like, what's going to happen in issue 3? And then I just start telling them, I'm weak.
Yeah, I'm not afraid of spoilers because my rating's that good. I'm not going to lie. He has 3 abilities that are unlocked over the course of the story so far by this nanotech colony, which is fast regeneration, enhanced strength, and enhanced speed.
There you go. That's what you need to be the killer. Yeah.
Yeah, but he can't access all 3 at the same time, he can only order the colony to do one at a time, at
that's
least
pretty
for the
interesting. Like Ultra Boy from the Legion of Superheroes.
right. At first, the
I'm
faster
impressed
generation.
that you got that. When I start talking about the Legion of Superheroes, most people just go, "Yeah, okay, sure, yeah, okay,
Yeah, I love the Legion of
okay."
Superheroes.
There you go.
Huge fan of the good stuff. And originally, like in the first book, he starts out just having a reflexive capability with the fast regeneration. When he's injured, it heals because it's sort of an autonomous thing. Your body just starts to heal itself.
Right.
Nanotech colony enhances that, so it makes it happen like
When you say
that.
nanotech colony, what like just there's like these nanos for those of you who don't know, or
It's
molecular
essentially a
sized robots.
swarm of microscopic robots that
Oh,
live inside of his body and are controlled by a node that was surgically implanted into his brain when he was young.
okay.
So he has control over them. He just never realized it because they didn't tell him. And that's something that he learns over time. It's how I did how I control the power creep issue, by having him learn more about the thing that is inside of him slowly over the course of the story. In the
Learning
beginning,
new tricks with his nanites.
yep. Eventually, he will learn how to, for short bursts, activate all three at the same time, but it has a cooldown essentially where the colony needs time to rest.
Oh, cool. I like that. I like logical weaknesses to superheroes.
Yep.
You know, I've spoiled it on streams before, but I'm not going to spoil it now. I've learned my lesson. But like my character, the patriarch, he
I
has.
love your concept, by the way.
Oh, thank you. He has a very realistic, exploitable weakness that you might be able to pick up on the first issue if I think I'm being clever. If I got it, but I maybe whatever. But so by the time that villain shows up again, we should see some problems. But you're not going to go like, oh, that's a stupid weakness. The color yellow, wood, or kryptonite. It's not a DC weakness. I think it's going to be a Marvel weakness. But I like that. So I in the first couple of issues, this guy's going to have to decide, like, am I just going to take damage, let people stab me because I can heal, or should I get super strong and just blast my way through them? I almost cursed. Or should I just be fast and accurate? With the reflexes. It's pretty good choice. I don't know about you, but you can heal a lot, but it still hurts to get stabbed. So I'd probably pick speed. I talk about this every time I live stream. Me and my buddies, we play role-playing games, and sooner or later, they all realize it's better to have better reflexes than to be super strong or anything. Avoid getting hit, and yeah, being strong is fine, but hitting accurately and quicker before everybody else is is better. But
Speed wins. Yep, absolutely, and that's covered in the story. He has moments where he's overwhelmed by people who are more skilled than he is, and the regeneration keeps him alive, but the pain makes it difficult to function.
Right, and then he can't beat them because without the enhanced speed. I do like that. That is pretty cool. And I mean, I brought up the Legion of Superheroes, excuse me, with Ultra Boy, but let's be realistic. Ultra Boy had all his powers at the same time. Like, have you? Yeah. When for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, Ultra Boy has all the powers of Superman, but only one at a time. So if he's using his heat vision, he's totally normal. If he's using his super strength, he doesn't have invulnerability. If he's flying, he doesn't have cold breath and everything else. But it never really was a problem for him. He was still mopping up.
Yeah, he was able to switch between them just strategically and overwhelm people. It was just a matter of not having them all active at the same time. So if he was flying, someone could shoot him out of the sky, which you really can't do with Superman unless you have like Darkseid's cannon or something.
Yeah, but I do like that. I like that. That is pretty cool. He's got these three. And again, if he could use all three of them at the same time, that's pretty unstoppable.
He does learn how to do so, and like I said, it has a timer because it sort of burns the energy out of the colony. And the spoiler on that one is he calls it full throttle. Each of the different individual abilities is a gear that he sort of activates in his own mind. but when he goes full force, it's full throttle, pedal to the metal style.
My buddy had we make up role playing games in our villains vigilante system. He made up a pretty much the same type of. Well, he made up a character. I'm trying to remember what he called him, but he had nanites in his bloodstream, and he could use the nanites for like limited. And then one of the things he would do is exhale like a cloud of nanites at the enemies and have the nanites just like disintegrate. Like, so like he's like, I don't have time for this, and then he would be weakened because his nanites, and so the rest of the nanites would work overtime to rebuild themselves. So, I don't know. I don't know why I'm talking about this. It had nothing to do with your comment. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
there's
like a disintegration field.
There's a whole broader story around the nanites, which involves one of the other members of the Holy Eight who goes by Raphael. He is the sort of the machinist who created the cybernetics and the nanite colony, and he has his own purpose for all of this stuff that runs underneath what's going on in the actual story. So it allows me to, I have 18 books mapped out for the novel series, and
you just anticipated my next question. Is this a limited series? Is ongoing?
It's going to be pretty long. They're broken up into trilogies. There's 6 arcs, 3 books each. So 18 total novels before it comes to an end. And if I continue with a 6 comic book run per novel, that's going to be a lot of comic books if I keep this going. So
how long does it take you to come out with a comic?
Surprisingly, not very long. I finished the comic itself, I want to say end of November of 2023, and then we launched the campaign for the special edition #1. That ended in February, and then we finished creating #2 in April. So about 2.5, almost 3 months of
production. Not bad. That's pretty quick.
Yep. As long as I have the funding, I'm going to keep doing it. And that's what these campaigns are for. They give me a little jolt of cash to get the work going. The first campaign made about a little over 2,000 from supporters. And then I got a surprise generous donation from Eric July, which, blew my mind. So I had a little extra money to play with.
Yeah, and tell them I like surprises.
Yeah. It was a weird circumstance. I didn't go looking for it. A couple of friends of mine and folks in my circle saw something that he had put out, and they mentioned my comic book, and all of a sudden I've got this big donation sitting in my
good
my email, and I'm looking at it that morning going, how do I respond to this? Thank you. I sent him.
Thank you, and make sure his comic isn't bent when you send it to him.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
So, yeah, it was really cool. And we tried a fun little marketing thing with issue #1, and I'm still doing it with issue #2, which is one of the milestones, like stretch goal style milestones, is if we hit $1,000 before issue #3 comes out, everybody that backed issue #2 and issue #1 gets an email with a 10% off code on the campaign for #3. So you get the book for a little cheaper. And
I was thinking about that, but I just can't afford it. My comic is as low as I could possibly make it. Any lower, and I might as well just give it away.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. So you said Generation X, same as me. What comics did you grow up reading?
A lot. I practically lived in my local comic book store. It was full geek emporium, so they had role playing games.
That was the name of the place?
No, it was called
okay, I was gonna say, wow, talk about embracing it. Yeah.
No, the place was called the Reclining Dragon.
That's cool.
It stayed open for 10 years, and I literally lived there after school every day. Just went and hung out until I had to go home. And we'd play tabletop RPGs, we'd play TCGs, and just buy comics and read comics. So I would collect the old X-Men stuff, the goods, in the 90s run, um, real edgy, fun X-Men stuff. I love DC more than Marvel,
Okay.
really. So I was collecting Batman, Superman, some of the Legion comics when they were available. I would pick through the long boxes of previous issues and find runs that I could read, just absorb whatever storylines were out there. And then I got into like Image and started enjoying the much more grittier things like Spawn, you know, during that period of time. And I tried getting into the New 52 when DC did its reset again.
Yeah, that's why I can't take DC seriously. Like,
Yeah,
I
it didn't
I
really
jumped
work
in
for
with
me.
DC at the Crisis of Infinite Earths, and then it just seemed like they don't care about their continuity. And what that told me was, I guess I don't care either. Like it
Yeah,
or not, Marvel pretends to be one long continuity, and that to me is like I compare myself to Henry Cavill often, and he he uh he loves all the nerdy little details of lore and stuff. Like,
yes.
I want to start talking about Tolkien. I'll talk about Tolkien all day long
Oh,
too. And you know, so like I love
I,
all of that, talking about the history of the Noldor and the different types of elves and all that stuff. So Marvel, you could do that because they got 70 years of continuity. And then somewhere around 2008, Marvel started to get fast and loose with the continuity. And I remember around 2008, I started to get annoyed. And then
mhm.
2015, I stopped. And that was before all the social justice warriors came in. So thankfully I missed that. But
Yeah,
anyway, you were all into the DC. As I step on something, you were all
it's
into. I got to see what I'm
I think
stepping on.
they made a critical error when at the Flashpoint Paradox run,
Yeah.
that because they saw everybody go crazy for the alternate concepts and then made their whole identity about alternate concepts. Like
Right.
everything after that, they were just playing to the slightly tweaked version of every character, and it got so muddy you
Well,
didn't know what the heck was happening from one
well,
run
Marvel
to
did that too without really rebooting. Like now they got like 900 Spider-Mans, and you know what I
yeah.
mean. Like the whole multiverse, just like Mr. Incredible says, if everybody's special, then nobody's special. You
Yeah,
know.
but I think the slight difference is Marvel kept it just concise enough that it was a totally separate thing going on until they stopped and really screwed up. Like, um, what was that run? The Apocalypse.
World of
Yeah,
Age of
the
Apocalypse.
Age of Apocalypse X-Men run. That was interesting because it was like almost the Days of Future Past style, but in an
Right.
alternate version. And the characters got to be in situations that everybody talked about over the tables,
Yeah,
but
people
never.
still love that. Geez,
Yeah.
I'm trying to, what was that, 20 years ago? And people still talking about that? Like,
Yep.
yeah.
But they kept it separate and went back to the standard reality, story for the longest time. Then they started playing with it where like Dark Beast crossed over or something.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, here we go, following the DC path.
Yeah. And you said the new 52. That's what that was like to me a good jumping off point. I remember
Great
discount
place for
comic books.
new.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it's a great place for new readers
Yeah.
because
Oh,
it resets everything.
at
But
the new 52, I looked back and I said sorry to all the old timers that got mad at the Crisis on Infinite Earths for ruining their comics.
yep.
Like, you crazy old timers, And now I'm like, yep, they did it to me.
Mhm.
It's like that. You pick up a girl at a bar who's cheating on her boyfriend. Next thing you know, you're gonna be surprised she's cheating on you. You know what I mean? DC, you did it.
Yep. I had the same conversation with my uncle. I remember, we had big family reunions because I've got a big Southern family, so we'd all converge into one location like ants and take it over. But my uncle would get bored with adulting and come hang out with the kids and talk about comic books, and he would complain and complain about Crisis on Infinite Earths. And I was like, oh, it's so cool. And he's like, no. And then, New 52 hit, and
Yep. And there
called,
you go.
I called him up halfway through it, and I went, I understand now.
Yeah. I remember the discount comic book service. They had, I forget if it was like $79 or something like that. It was all the New 52 books. So I was like, all right. So I think it lasted 9 months or maybe 19 months. I forget. There was a 9 involved. And then they canceled that bundle deal. And that's when I stopped with DC.
Yeah, the only New 52 run I actually collected in full was World's End, just because it was such an interesting storyline. I didn't like the characters.
Who was in World's End?
They kind of, it was sort of a conglomeration of a bunch of different characters, and the story was just about the multiverses breaking.
Oh, okay. I remember that. I continued till the end with Swamp Thing, because just Swamp Thing is one of my favorite. And I gotta say, I don't know what it is about Swamp Thing, but it brings out the best in every writer. It's always good. And I got the new run of Swamp Thing over here. I haven't read it yet. Maybe that's the awful one, but an Animal Man. I don't know what it is about Animal Man, but Animal Man is I guess he's not popular enough that the tourist writers want to deal with him. You know what I mean? Yeah, so the hardcore comic book people want to deal with it. But
I remember they tried to reboot the Swamp Thing TV show like years back, and it didn't take.
Yeah, my wife and I were watching it, and I don't know if did you like it, the Swamp Thing TV show?
You're asking me?
First couple of episodes I was on board.
I liked it. I thought they were doing a really good job. They changed what they did. They took all the versions of the Swamp Thing, put them in a blender. So someone's like, okay, they're doing this, but the problem was, I don't know if this is true or not, but they were given a budget to make the show, and they spent all the budget on the first season, and then they're like, no, that was the budget for like the 4 seasons. So it got canceled because they used up all the money, because it looked really good. It looked like a big budget Netflix show, and it was a CW show, So
yeah, it was really cool. The first couple episodes I really enjoyed, but it just started to drag, and I mean, the pacing was not great.
It was a little slow. Like things like Abby was a botanist,
Yeah,
Abby, they can't just be like a regular caregiver, you know what I mean? But and Abby looked nothing like the Abby in the comics, but she was good looking. I like that actor who was playing Jason Woodrue. You could see his descent into madness, but of course it never happened. Mm-hmm. And then they had like quality actor, the guy who was playing because they were doing the original Martin the Bernie Wrightson stories, the Martin Pasco stories, and the Alan Moore stories. The guy who was playing Sunderland, he wasn't General Sunderland like he was but he was like a business, and his wife was Virginia Madsen, so they had a big cast, and then they had Jennifer Beals as the sheriff. They must have been like, wow, they're giving us so much money, and then they're like, oh, this was for 4 seasons. Now I don't know if that's the truth. They had the guy from Beverly Hills 90210 as he was going to be the Blue Devil, but that never happened.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I wish they continued it. My dad was telling me to watch Swamp Thing. Yeah, it was pretty good. It was a pretty good show.
Wise, it was strong. Pacing, it was slow.
Yeah. I don't know, but I would like to see another season of it, but that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah,
and it was really weird. If you're a stickler, I can see you getting annoyed, because it was, the Bernie Wrightson, the Martin Pasco, the Alan Moore, all just put into a blender and then see what happens. It wasn't even like they took the best of everything, but
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was raised on the Bill Bixby Incredible Hulk, so it's a high bar to please me when it comes to comic book television.
Yeah, but my wife bought me the box set of the Hulk, and she bought me the box set of Wonder Woman, and then I bought myself the box set of Batman 66. That's still, and it's funny because when you watch Batman 66, you're like, oh man, the first season was kind of dull. There was no major supervillains in it. It was just like, ordinary crime. The
Yeah.
second season was the one everybody thinks about.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like they weren't sure what to do with the show at first.
Yeah, yeah. Or they didn't have the budget. Then the next season, everyone's like, I want to be part of the show because it became a phenomenon. So everybody wanted to be a villain on Batman.
Oh,
and then it ended. I think it was the movie. I think the movie came out in between seasons, and that's what
yes
made it the super big thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you're dressed like Han Solo. It looks like you're gonna go out and up some spice before the Empire gets there.
I may or may not have Millennium Falcon in my garage. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. So let's get back to your comic now. Is this like your magnum opus? Do you have another story that you want to tell? Is this your burning story that you've been wanted to tell since you were a kid?
No, this is the concept of G Sedai came to me probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and I've only been working on it that long. This is sort of my tester because for the longest time, I wanted to make a comic book. Like most of my life, I thought it would be super cool to be in the comic book industry.
Yeah, I wanted to write Fantastic Four my whole life. Yeah.
But I couldn't figure out how to get myself into that position with the way my life was working out. I'm in Pennsylvania, not New York. Getting to New York wouldn't be too difficult, but surviving it might be.
You'd have to live with 16 other people in a
apartment. So the way my life turned out, it never actually happened. And I thought if I'm not going to be able to write comic books, I'm going to write novels. So I learned how to do that and started producing those. I've written about 7 public books. I've got 3 ready to publish and 2 I'm working on. So I've got a pretty decent arsenal at this point. And G Sedai is only one of those stories. It's my tester because with the indie comics boom, I thought, okay, maybe it's not so difficult to make a comic book after all. I'm going to learn how to do this. And this is me applying those skills and learning how to do it better, because when I do produce what you would consider my magnum opus, it needs to be on point. So I need to know what I need to do in order to make that happen. And so we'll call G Sedai my first child of comic books, the one I make all the mistakes on.
Is it all ages? Is it for adults? What's the target audience?
The target audience is twofold. It's, I'd say 13 to 21.
Okay.
Specifically because while there's no graphic nudity or heavy cussing or anything like that, there is graphic violence. These are people that are using
swords at each other.
Yeah, with enhanced strength. Things are going to fall off. There's in the trailer, you see Gabriel takes out the one dude's jaw, like straight across the face, and almost cuts it clean off. So there's graphic violence. So I can't say it's for kids, but young teenagers, they're used to that sort of thing nowadays with the anime stuff that's available. So, I'm okay with that. And then, of course, there's the Gen Xers, the people who are raised on the classic manga stuff, because I wanted it to be in that classic style, pay tribute to the things that I grew up with, but tell a new story at the same time. So I have 2 markets, which is people my age and young boys who are interested in, sword swinging, awesome action and some heroics. Because it is boiled down a story about a futuristic knight protecting a young woman. It can't get more simpler than that.
Are you a fan of modern anime or manga or whatever the cool word is? I don't know. I know it's manga.
Fan? No, not really. I find myself picking apart a lot of the writing nowadays. It might be because I've written so many things myself and because I was raised on the classic stuff. A lot of it seems like it's way too underdeveloped before it goes into production. But I love the medium itself. Dude, yeah, Ninja Scroll, definitely. That's a.
I haven't read any modern manga at all. And, I had a foreman, Kelvin, who was, as much as I'm into comics, he was into manga and anime, and it just bothered him I never said I didn't like it. I just said I'm not familiar with it. So
Yeah.
he wore me
There's-
down. I said pick one, and he got me to watch Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and it was excellent. It was absolutely excellent. I never read it. I watched the series. It was so good.
Yeah, Brotherhood is the second version of that story. There's a
Right. He was explaining to me, and I don't know because I'm a newbie when it comes to that there's an anime adaptation that's an adaptation, and then they always do like another one that's a literal translation of the comic or the manga, and he said that was the literal translation of the comic, not like a shortened, abridged version.
Yeah.
So I took his word for it. It was excellent. It was really good.
Yeah, it is really good. More modern wise, I mean, current running things like Demon Slayer is very popular. I like it. I think some of the story elements are missing from it, but overall it hits really great beats. And most people have heard of My Hero Academia.
Yeah, everybody tells me that's the one for me to read.
It's a really great concept. The longer it goes on, the weaker it gets. And that's, I think, because it's school based, but also superheroes.
Yeah.
So the power creep reaches a point where it starts to become kind of silly. Towards
I get my limited knowledge of manga. It always seems that everybody's super powerful. Like I always used to say, there's Marvel's, that when it comes to superheroes, there's Marvel level heroes, then there's DC level heroes. The DC level heroes were gods, Marvel were demigods, and it seems like the manga guys are like ultra gods. Like, whenever I talk about who's the strongest superhero, Hulk, Thor, Superman, and then somebody says like Super Saiyan 5, and I'm like, I don't even know what they're talking about. And each one of these guys could blow up planets with a punch.
Yeah, he could punch a hole straight through a planet, man.
And I always just think like there comes a point where that's boring, Like I understand One Punch Man, that's the whole premise.
Yeah,
he's so powerful that he's boring. I get that. It is kind of clever if you can pull it off, and it seems
it's
like
a satire. So yeah, it's supposed to be
satire. Yeah,
it's supposed to be clever, and that's the joy of it. There were a couple of really good things. There was a series back in the 2000s, I want to say, called the Excel Saga, EXCEL Saga, and it was a mangaka who was given the budget to create a satire animated series that lambasted everything about anime and manga.
Okay.
So every episode they took a genre like romance, action, sci-fi, horror, and just did absurd things with that genre and made fun of it for a half an hour and then ended the show and said, come back next week for the next one. It was so bizarre, but it worked really well.
Here's the link to your campaign. I'm going to bring up your campaign again at the stage, and I'll just clear this. But here's the link. It's one of the first comments in the post if you want to go check it out. I wanted to we didn't talk about this yet, and we're closing in on our hour. So it's $10 for a digital tier.
Yes, of the Color Pop.
Of the Color Pop, that's right. Yeah, and then we got $20 for the how many pages?
32.
Okay, 32 pages, and then 25 with the Jose Garcia cover. Guys, I don't know if you're familiar with Sergio Aragonés, but Jose Garcia is like one of the only artists I compare to Sergio Aragonés. Whereas it's a still image, but there's so much animation and action, it almost looks animated. Like when
Yeah,
you
he's
read through The Wanderer, you can almost see the things moving.
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of his. This is pretty cool. This is a $25 a variant cover. Who's the artist? Oh, Sean Stevens. Geez, that was
Yes.
difficult for me to say. Pretty cool.
He goes by Art Attack X on Twitter/X.
Oh, I'm still saying Twitter. Elon, you ruined a good thing.
My co-host and I refer to it as Twix on Iron Age Nights, so it's just sort of stuck.
Yeah, it's. I mean, if you've been McDonald's for years, you don't just change your name to the House of Burgers. You know what I mean? Just dance with the one that brought you, and it's Twitter. Sorry, Elon. and this is Luke. Man, Luke really leveled up his art on this. This looks.
He did.
This is going to sound mean, and I don't mean it to sound mean, but I didn't recognize this as Luke's art. Good for him.
When I contacted him, I asked him if he was up for doing a variant cover, and I said what I'd like to do is a mirror reflection of young Gabriel in training under his master, which is the bald man behind him. He goes by Genbu, and then adult Gabriel. And this is what he gave me, a literal mirror reflection of the boy and the man. And at the bottom, you can see the shadow of Genbu is still right behind the man.
Yeah. That is cool. That is really good.
Yeah, he's absolutely dynamic. And then because it's the second issue, I said anyone who didn't get a chance to
you got it.
Number one could get the Color Pop #1.
You have to do that, man. Comic book people, we're all obsessive compulsives. You know, I've been doing this now for like 2 years of talking to people, and only one person said that they refuse to sell the back issues. Nope, if you missed them, you missed them. I'm like, well, me, I'm not going to buy your comic. I'm not buying #4. That's just going to be painful. So you gotta include the back issues, or at least a reprint with a different cover. You know what I mean? Oh wow, you making T-shirts? That's cool.
Yeah, I do a little bit of play merch with some of the concepts. That one is just silly. I love doing them. I did one for the first issue, so that creature is in most of the covers. It's a guinea pig that the sex trafficked girl found and decided that she was going to take care of. So it has its own place in the story. And when I finish the 6 issues, my plan is to do an omnibus of all 6 issues in one book, plus a short kids style cartoon adventure centered around the guinea pig.
Oh, cool.
And it maneuvering its way around people, but it's all about the little critter, just for fun. There's a little added bonus.
Everyone needs to set up a Fund My Comics account. Yeah, so you can buy my comic too. There you go.
Luke Stone created a platform that is open and honest, and that is something missing right now in indie creators sphere. We needed it.
There's no shadiness going on. Luke, I got his phone number. You know what I mean? Like this, one of the stories I want to tell when I make my video is the many problems that I had. Not Luke, not Fund My Comic. You know, me being a rookie, I made every possible mistake, and Luke calmed me down. Like I was yelling at him at one point, freaking out. You know, and in my defense, I was right. You know, but I was misinformed by my own ignorance. And Luke calmed me down, fixed it all. He spent 6 hours on the phone with me, figuring out what the problem was. You can't do that on Indiegogo. You can't do that on Kickstarter. You know what I mean? I've heard stories where Kickstarter still hasn't paid somebody for months, and that'll destroy. You know, that'll destroy the average person, especially if Kickstarter is their only site. So I don't know.
I very much dislike both of them. I've tried to run campaigns on both, and Kickstarter, I just get insane messages from people trying to sell me stuff, which is really just so frustrating. Really? Creator. Yeah. They just, instead of, they have a message system where they can go, hey, tell me a little bit more about your book. You start talking to them. They're like, well, I can sell you to my group of 3,000 people and really make your campaign succeed. You have to pay me for this. And I'm like, I'm so tired of going through the script. Leave me alone. So I just stopped using Kickstarter. Same thing with Indiegogo, the shadow ban stuff that was going on.
That's another thing, yeah. People,
so I'm only on Fund My Comic. These
right now I'm only on Fund My Comic.
Yep.
I will be doing a Kickstarter and an Indiegogo. I want to do the whole rounds, but I want to do them one at a time, so I'm not competing with myself. But Fund My Comic will be the home. When everything's over, the store will be at Fund My Comic. I refuse to use Kickstarter. That's fine. People stick to your guns.
Yeah,
I don't understand
anybody making money. I'm
sorry.
Personally, I'm not going to begrudge anybody making money.
Right,
so
yes.
go to Kickstarter, go to Indiegogo if you want to.
I haven't tried them yet, so maybe maybe it'll be horrible. Maybe it'll be great. I don't know yet, but at least I could say I tried it. But I've heard nothing but horror stories, and I've only heard good stories about Fund My Comic. One thing I don't understand is people who are fans of a platform, like, oh, I'm a fan of Indiegogo. Like, I'll go where the burgers are. If the good burgers are over here, I'll go to there. I don't understand. Like, I'm a big board gamer now. Like, Kickstarter used to be the place to go to for board games. Now it's GameFound. Should I not buy game because I like Kickstarter? I don't know. If the product is over here and that's the product that I want, that's where I'll go.
Exactly.
Nick Axe is here, so that means it's time to shut this down. Whenever Nick Axe shows up, that means it's time to leave. So anything you want to say before we close up and I go eat my dinner?
No, I just hope that if you do decide to support the campaign, always let me know what you think of it. I'm looking to learn so that I can make something even greater with one of my other projects.
Cool. Yeah, and here's the link. The campaign looked pretty cool, and
thank you.
This is for the color pop and the regular black and white. Where are you selling that again?
Global Comics digitally.
Okay, so this is the only way to get a physical copy then.
And there's a storefront on Fund My Comic for physical copies as well, but digitally you can get it on Global Comics.
Okay. All right. But thanks a lot, everybody. And I'm gonna shut this down. I try to keep them as close to an hour as possible. I find that my audience doesn't click on 4-hour streams, but they will click on an hour stream. So thanks a lot, everybody. And I'll see you tomorrow. I got 2 live chats tomorrow. And one of them is Comic Book Team Up with RJ and Fabrizio Aiello at 8:30. And who am I talking to tomorrow at 10? This is embarrassing that I don't remember. I mean, not 10. Oh, Longbox Punk. Yeah, Longbox Punk is coming back. We screamed and yelled and talked about punk rock music. We forgot to talk about comic books. So I'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Bye-bye.